Good afternoon. I'm Craig Olson, and in the summer of 1994, I had the good fortune to be named the Associate Principal Athletic Director at this high school. That began an almost 20-year working relationship with Coach Pepple, a relationship I cherish to this day. There are certainly a number of games and championships won and lost and conversations I can recall regarding Coach Pepple, but there are two events that stand out in my mind that I'd like to share. First, as a member of the WIAA Executive Board, I had the privilege to nominate Coach for the WIAA Hall of Fame. I recall vividly his acceptance speech, where he was very clear that the one win he was most proud of had nothing to do with a basketball game or any other game for that matter. It was winning the heart, love, and support of his wife, Shirley. As a side note, I remember nominating him for the National High School Hall of Fame, going to his home to tell him he had been selected, then placing the medallion around his neck at the convention in San Diego, all the while he had a huge smile on his face. The second memory I have was after a tough loss in the state semifinals, I think against Decatur, and Decatur had a very good player named Quincy Wilder. Anyway, after the game, I walked into the luxury suite that had been donated to us in the old Key Arena, and there was Coach on the floor, crawling around, laughing and playing with one of his grandchildren. I remember thinking that, man, after such a tough loss, he wasn't stewing about it. He wasn't complaining. He had already moved on. He loved the game of basketball, but that would never come close to his love of family. When Coach retired, I had a number of people ask me about what his secret was, and the discussion invariably would turn to the Little Dribblers program. But after thinking about this a bit, there really wasn't a secret. And what it was went well beyond the Little Dribblers program. Coach Pepple established a culture of high expectations, high yet realistic expectations. He had high expectations for starters, for bench warmers, assistant coaches, trainers, managers, and quite honestly, athletic directors and principals as well. Set high expectations for players, and they will strive to meet those expectations. That's what I think he was successful at. Discipline was certainly an element of the program as well as class. I mean, you don't simply see high school athletes anymore in blazers and ties on game day. But I believe it all started with Coach Pepple establishing those high expectations for everyone associated with the program. There will never be another coach like Coach Ed Pepple. I am fortunate to have worked with the one and only. Thanks.
Hey, my name is Scott Didrikson, and I played for Coach from 89 to 91. And my first memory of Coach was 1985, walking into that gym for the first time and being blown away by the crowd and by Coach in his blazer and by Quinn and Brian and that incredible team. And I remember just walking away thinking I would do anything to play for Coach Pepple and to be a part of that program. And I was able to, and I remember my freshman year, my first real encounter with Coach was team camp had ended and I was a freshman and nobody wanted to give me a ride home. So I jumped in the front seat of the Oldsmobile. I think that's what it was, that big, huge car that he drove. And I got hour after hour of story after story of the great players and the great teams. And I was so inspired by it. And I think that was the story for the next 3 years for me, was just being inspired by Coach. Like, I just wanted to be better for him, and I wanted to win a state championship for him. We never did. I'm sorry, Coach. But I think, the fact that there were so many life lessons that Coach taught that I think so many guys would say, like me, I don't think a day goes by that the things that he taught, the principles, the expectations that he had, that those don't just come out in my life. And I got into coaching because of him. And I think my own kids, the kids that I've coached through the years, have been really impacted by Coach too. What a cool thing to say, that a lot of years later, lives are still being changed because of Coach and the kind of man that he is. And like a lot of people, I got to know Coach later in life, probably better than I obviously did as a high schooler, and liked him even more. Loved his sense of humor. And the more I got to know him, the more I loved him. So, Coach, I miss you and I love you, and I am so thankful that I got to be one of your players.
The best leader I've ever been around, Coach P. When preparation meets opportunity. If I had a nickel for every time he asked a player to define luck, I'd be a wealthy man. Character, accountability, leadership, commitment, but most importantly, preparation were all those things that defined not only a program that was continuously victorious and successful, but the men that he helped raise that became fathers, CEOs, or hardworking men in their communities. Thanks to Coach P, there are thousands of men that are contributing to their communities in a very positive way. A lot of people talk about the wins and the championships and the time that he spent in that gym. But more importantly for me, the time that he spent helping us mature in how we all branched out and created our own ways to impact other communities. His coaching tree is probably too long to describe, and the number of young men that played for him that moved on to have their own success in their own special ways, that look back at him and remember some of the one-on-one conversations and the learning moments that they've had, whether it was on the court or over the phone or face-to-face in his classroom. His impact can never be described by words. I love you, I miss you, but I will never forget how much you impacted my life and the lives of all the others that were fortunate to call themselves Islanders. Go Islanders.
Coach P, and all the people who came before me in the program, you all shaped the basketball player I became, as well as a lot of who I became as a person. It is an honor to be a part of this group of alumni. I will always cherish the times I had on the court and the bonds that I made off of it. That said, I still grew my hair out a little for you, Coach. I miss you all.
My name is Ann Meisner. As the Athletics and Facilities Coordinator at Mercer Island High School, I worked with Coach Pepple from the time I was hired in March 2003 until he retired. It was my job to manage the behind-the-scenes work of schedules and logistics so that coaches could concentrate just on coaching. When I started my job, I knew Coach Pepple was legendary. His teams were very successful. He ran an incredibly tight ship, and he had very high expectations of his teams, his coaches, and his players, both on and off the court. He knew what he needed to meet these expectations, and he was used to getting what he needed. Needless to say, I was intimidated. So I had to learn how to work with Coach to push past the intimidation. With collaboration in mind, I happily would make arrangements when I could. And if I had to deliver bad news, I gave it to him straight, no fudging around. And then I would work towards compromise. I would greet him every day with a smile and keep a positive attitude that it will all work out. And you know what? It did. And we worked really well together to the point where he called me Annie, which for me is a term of endearment. The other thing I learned from Coach Pepple is that it's okay to make mistakes. But while it's okay to make mistakes, I learned not to make a lot of mistakes with the same coach. And I worked really hard to greatly limit the number of mistakes I made with Coach Pepple. It was an honor to be a part of Coach's extensive organization and his system for success for both the teams and for player development. From Little Dribblers to Eastside Travel League to the 4 levels of high school boys basketball, from the Boys Basketball Booster Club leadership and all of the coaches and all of the assistant coaches, I really enjoyed it all. It was truly an honor to work with the coach, and it was a highlight of my time at Mercer Island High School. Thank you.
As a young coach going into the first WIPCA meetings, when we were just getting organized, I always enjoyed watching Ed get other coaches to take responsibility to make our association much better. Ed was great at directing people and getting things done, so we had a great association. And then I was coaching across the state from him, but I always enjoyed watching his teams play because of their discipline, and he always got tremendous players, and they played really well. Then, when we got into the same league, I got to compete against him, which was really fun because you always want to compete against the best. When it came and they asked me to do the Oregon-Washington game, because Washington was struggling a little bit, I thought, who do I want on my staff? And of course, it was Coach Pepple, because I wanted his guidance and all the things he brought to the table. My girls have a funny story about that. My 2 daughters had to ride with him to the game in Oregon, and he scared the heck out of them because he drove 100 miles an hour and expected everybody to get out of his way. And I felt he coached and helped the association the same way. Ed will be missed. I thought he had a great sense of humor. A lot of people took shots at him because he had such great success, but with great success, you have people being envious and taking shots at you. But Ed would laugh, have a good time with it, and always go out and do his best. And miss Ed and Shirley were a great team, and I just have the utmost respect for Coach Pepple and everything.
Hi, I'm Nayland Sood, the head boys basketball coach at Mount Lake Terrace High School. I'm also the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Basketball Coaches Association, also known as WIPCA. I just want to take a few moments to share my respect and sincere appreciation for knowing Coach Pepple, and also share a few words towards the Pepple family and the Mercer Island basketball family. Since Coach Pepple passed away, a lot's been said about the impact he had on basketball in the state of Washington. That'll continue for generations to come. But the impact he had and the reach he had goes much further than just the state of Washington. It goes to the national level. I remember years ago going to the National Federation of High Schools offices in Indianapolis, Indiana. As soon as I walked in the lobby, I immediately saw a plaque with Coach's name on it for an award he received. I proudly leaned over and told somebody, hey, I know that guy. That was Coach Pepple. Within the state of Washington, anybody that put a whistle around their neck and called themselves a basketball coach at any level was impacted by Coach Pepple. I remember as a young coach, I'll never forget how kind, respectful, the fact he knew my name. And if I asked, he was always willing to give advice. Now, I guess as one of those older coaches, that still resonates with me. And in some way, shape, or form, I can do that towards younger coaches in our state. Coach had an impact on so many people in so many different ways. Our State Basketball Coaches Association is something that's very dear to me. And I know it would not be what it is today if it wasn't for a person like Coach Pepple. You know, behind me, you can see some pictures of some of the old-time Seattle basketball teams, the Sonics. And I know for a fact that if they did a Mount Rushmore of people that had an impact on basketball in the state of Washington at any level, Coach's face or image should be up there as much as anybody's. To the Pepple family and to the Mercer Island basketball family, my sincere condolences. I wish you all the best, and go Islanders.
To Shirley and the Pepple family, I have so many reasons that I owe a heartfelt thank you to Coach Pepple. I'll list just 3 of those reasons. First, Coach Pepple coached Noah, our son, from little dribblers all the way through varsity. And Coach Pepple did it the right way, emphasizing competition and winning while instilling the value of hard work, integrity, and sportsmanship.
To the rest of the family, the boys and girls, everybody in that family has made that sacrifice to be a part of that Islander program. and now actually the Sea Lion program down here at Point Loma Nazarene. Um, I wish that Coach was here right now so I could still talk to him, because there's so much more for me to learn from him. But I really enjoy just the fact that he shared his life with us. You know, basketball was just part of it, and practice was about life. It was about tennis. It was about, you know, how Mrs. Pepple and he were working things and doing whatever. You know, he kept it light, but enough to know that he was a human first, and really like a father to most of us. I just want to say thanks, Coach. I love you, and I miss you.
My name's Rick Turner. I am the head coach for the Jamaica national basketball team, and I'm a proud former assistant coach with the Mercer Island varsity program, alongside with Coach Pepple. I wanted to do this video, but I was a little unsure about it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I knew I couldn't keep it short and sweet as was requested, but also because the ability to just say what Coach Pepple meant to me in this short amount of time is just, it's impossible. But I will say this, many of you may not know this, but 27 years ago, Coach went to Jamaica and essentially started a basketball camp down there called the Jump Ball Basketball Camp, which he then passed on to Omar Parker, and Omar passed it on to me. And, you know, 27 years later, we've probably reached about 25,000 kids. We do camps all over Jamaica, as well as in Haiti. And all of that was started from Coach Pepple. And I think a lot of people will echo the sentiments that they would not be where they are today without his help and mentoring and friendship. And, you know, that goes for me as well. I definitely would not be a part of the Jamaica basketball program, which I'm really proud of and excited about, had it not been for Coach Pepple. We miss him greatly.
So I just want to say thank you to Coach Pepple. Thank you not only for teaching so many of us the fundamentals of the game, teaching us in such a way that allowed us all the opportunity to fall in love with the game of basketball, and teaching us that if you play together as a team, as one unit, and believe in each other, and believe in the process, and you work hard, you can become successful. But most importantly, thank you for teaching us how to become a better person. The principles you stood for, the lessons you taught us, transcended the game of basketball and prepared us for life. They built a bridge for every one of us to become successful. So for that, Coach Pepple, I say thank you. You're one of the main reasons we all are proud to be Islanders.
Hi, I'm Diana Blakeney, former co-fan of the year and a big supporter of the Mercer Island basketball program, both under Ed Pepple and under the current coach, Cree, who happens to be my son-in-law. I have two children that were deeply affected by the Ed Pepple basketball program. One, my son Noah, who had a successful stint as a Mercer Island basketball player, and my daughter Jessica, who married a Ed Pepple basketball player and current coach of the Mercer Island boys basketball team. I think I'll rely. There are many things I could say about Ed. I was on a lot of trips that he was a part of, and I got a chance to attend, I think, pretty much every game from the time we first became aware of Mercer Island basketball until the time we left Mercer Island to retire in Oregon, and we still follow the team. Whether we're in Mercer Island visiting or whether we're watching it on TV or listening to it on the radio. But I guess I'd say what my mother always said, and that is the proof is in the pudding. And when I look at the two men in my life that were influenced by Ed, my son Noah and my son-in-law Gavin, I say, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Mercer Island basketball.
Hey, this is Grant Farmer, class of 1993, and I was trying to reflect on some things as far as Coach Pepple and his overall influence on my life, and there's so many, and really kind of for me, what I think about is just the very beginning, 8 or 9 years old, going to Little Dribblers, going to the varsity games on Friday nights, seeing the crowd waiting outside, trying to get in, a lot of people getting turned away, just the energy and excitement. And then having the opportunity to play for Coach and be in that environment. And then obviously afterwards, just beyond high school, going into college and beyond, I actually went into coaching because of Coach Pepple, had an opportunity to come back and be on his staff for a year, which was great. But overall, just the principles he instilled, always wanting more, which, you know, there were times when I'd walk away from a game or practice and feel like, hey, I did pretty good today. And Coach would let you know there's more to give from an individual standpoint and a team standpoint. And he was always moving the bar. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think a lot of times we think we've given everything we have, and you have somebody like Coach who can pull more out of you. And ultimately, in my life, whether it's coaching my kids, other kids, and just in everyday life, I'm always reminded that I have more to give because Coach Pepple saw that. He had so many sayings, but a few that stick out to me were, he would say to me, "You can't stick a watermelon through a lifesaver." I was always trying to make passes that he didn't agree with. So I find myself saying that now. If you can't be on time, be early. My kids are tired of hearing it, but I don't care because it's the truth. And then people talk about his sense of humor. And I had an experience with him once, long after had playing for him, was back home in Seattle, had an opportunity to golf with him, and I am not a golfer at all. So maybe once or twice a year if I'm lucky. But we had the opportunity to be in a cart together, and I had a shot. I was a long ways away, and I didn't even have all the clubs in my bag. And I asked Coach, I said, "Hey, any chance you have a 3-wood?" And Coach looked at me and he said, "Well, yeah, I've got one, but I mean, I can't hit it. I don't even think, you can try it if you want." So I grabbed the club and hit a shot. It was probably one of the best shots I ever hit. Totally lucky. But I played it off like that's what I meant to do. So ball goes flying off, which was fun to watch. And then I turned and handed Coach the 3-wood back. And I said, "Hey, thanks." And he looked at me just deadpan and said, "Well, I'm glad to know the club works." So we had a good laugh about that. So Coach Pepple, love you, miss you, but your spirit will continue on in all of us. And I'm so fortunate that I'm able to pass along what you instilled in me to others, and that will just continue on. So love you.
What's up, guys? Brian Booty Brown here, as Coach P would call me. Just want to say hey to all the Islanders out there. Special hi to the Pepple family. What else? What can you say about Coach P? Is a heck of a coach, probably one of the best to ever do it. Touched so many young men's lives across the country and the world from the game of basketball. Taught us all about values, loyalty, respect, and hard work. All those things we take with us as we grow and become older men. And none of us are playing tennis like Coach P ever was at his age. But we all try to get out there and do what we can, support our family, support our friends, just like Coach P always did. Like I said, it wasn't just about basketball with him. It was about more. It was about life. And, till this day, I take a lot of those life lessons he taught me. Coach P got the opportunity to coach 3 Brown brothers, myself, Tarek Brown, and Fred Brown Jr. 2 of those brothers got a state championship. Sorry, Fred, you came up a little short. But, Coach, we love you to death. I'm sorry that you're not here with us anymore, but you will always live through Mercer Island basketball and basketball in general. And I take everything that you've taught me till this day. I do what I can. I give back. I help out young men, young women, all because of what you've taught me. And I will continue to do that to my dying day. Just respect for the whole family, Pepple family. Love you guys for supporting all the young men and everybody that came up through the system. It's just great to be an Islander, and I'll always be an Islander. Bleed maroon and white. Go Islanders.
Hey Islanders and Pepple family, my name is Luke Salays. I'm class of 2008 and I played 1 year for Coach Pepple. I had a few thoughts I wanted to share, so I have them written down here. So one of the first things is that comes to mind is I was at a memorial a couple years back, and the son of the man who passed away, he was older, and the son, when he was speaking, he asked the crowd, there were probably 250 people at the church there, and he said, how many people, in this room, would you stand up? Would you mind standing up if you had ever been, housed by my dad? The dad was someone who had people welcomed into his home. And anyways, about 2/3 of the room stood up, and I'll never forget that moment. It was really incredible because, I had known him for a long time, and none of us really knew that he had been, helping people along the way, people who were, maybe in between housing or homeless. And anyways, the reason I share that is because I'm recording this video after Coach's celebration of life, and similar to this man who passed away, Coach Pepple seemed to have quite the similar reach and impact. His impact wasn't, quite as secretive. Obviously, he, reached thousands, tens of thousands of people. We'll never know kind of the network that he, inspired. But I have here that he had the same type of monumental impact in countless lives while he was here serving us. And the point is that he chose to be unwavering in his service, and I think that it's an incredible model that we can all carry out in our own lives and the impact that we choose. I'll share one more thought. I'll try to be brief. I finally came to appreciate Coach Pepple after high school. I was the last guy on the team. I didn't play much, so I think part of me was a bit resentful. Wasn't his fault, of course. But anyways, our relationship was much more lighthearted, really after college. When I was back on the island, I got to know Coach a bit, more on just like again, just lighthearted type of basis. And we would start, we would bump into each other, and finally he met my family as I started having a family, and we would connect periodically. And he was just really encouraging, which is no surprise. And I remember the last time I spoke to Coach was on his birthday, actually, in 2020. It was during COVID. I don't remember the details of the conversation, but I remember he seemed really happy, and he was talking about his family. And so, there's just some of the thoughts and memories I have of Coach, and what an amazing figure. And he was, to me, it was love in the context of basketball. That's kind of my one of my takeaways, is that he really served a lot of people in a lot of different ways, and it's just he's just quite the servant. So rest in peace to Coach, and thank you for everything that he's done, and thanks everyone. Bye.
I think about Coach Pepple all the time. The three things that most come to mind: one, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I think that's an incredibly important thing. Two, always look forward, always think about that next play, don't dwell in the past. And then lastly, anything worth doing is worth doing with enthusiasm. Miss you, Coach.